Let's see. Okay, I think we're live. Welcome everybody to another episode of AWOL. And today I have a great guest. Her name is Stella. And actually Stella's in a similar part of this whole AWOL journey as I am. We both got our businesses up and running and the sales are starting to come in. It's really exciting. So what I want to do is put the camera on Stella and have her just tell some of her story. Stella started as a freelancer. I'm not going to give too many details away. I'm just going to let Stella kind of get started with it. So yeah, Stella, why don't you go back to before AWOL, kind of where you were. I know you were a freelancer. Let's start there in your story. And I'd love to hear how you evolved to finding this community and this opportunity and what led you here.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, yeah, I was pretty much my entire life I've spent as a freelancer. First, like 22 to 23 years in film and television, in front and behind the camera. And then when I gave that up, I moved over to sales because it's similar, very similar. And that was also freelance. So I worked for a lot of different companies as their brand ambassador, including like Nespresso and Southern Wine and Spirits, different types of top shelf liquors, and also with Geometry Global on their Gallo account. And I would sell a tremendous amount of wine in 3 hours at these events, but I was still only getting paid the same amount of money. And I thought, you know, I'm too good to do this. You know what I mean? If I was making commission, I'd be making so much more.
So you were finding out you were really good at sales, pretty much.
Yeah, and how much I really enjoyed it, and just interacting with people and pairing them with the right, at that point, wine with whatever they were having that night and whatever they liked. And, you know, and just making them happy, right? And not to mention, it's fun to taste wine, you know, nothing wrong with that. And so I left that and I thought, well, what can I sell that has a higher commission? And I loved cars. So for me, the natural transition was to move over to selling automobiles, obviously. And so I started out with Honda. And after like 2.5 months of training, my first day on the floor by myself, where I wasn't shadowing anyone, 9 o'clock in the morning, first customer through the door, I sold them. And I was like, yes, this is what I should be doing. Okay. And so that gave me such a rush. And that first month I sold 16 cars. This was never done in the history of that dealership.
Oh my God.
And the owner, Tom, who speaks to no one, actually came up to me and congratulated me. And I honestly, I didn't even know who he was. But the other salespeople came up to me afterwards. They're like, what did he say to you? What did he say to you? And I'm like, well, you know, he just congratulated me and wished me luck. And said he was happy to have me here and so forth. And they're like, do you realize he doesn't talk to any salespeople? And I was like, really? Well, he talked to me.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So from that point on, you know, I was selling cars, and Honda's a great product. You know, I love it.
Yeah, we have a fit, and we've had it.
Really? Yeah.
We've been traveling in the States for 4 years and sort of nomadic, and that car has been just awesome.
Oh, that'll take you to 200,000 easy.
Right. It's so cool.
Yeah, they just keep going and going. And so I really enjoyed that part of it. As time went on, though, what I realized that I didn't like was the hours. There's 3 days where they call them bell to bell. That means 9 to 9. But, you know, if it was 9 to 9, it wouldn't be that bad. But a lot of times if you were finishing up with a customer, you wouldn't get out of there till 10:30, 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. And then you'd have to be back there again at 9 o'clock in the morning the next day. And there's only one day off on the weekend, and that's Sunday. And the other day I had off was Wednesday. So basically Tuesday, I worked from 9 to 3, and then I was off. And then I had all of Wednesday off. And then I had to go back Thursday from 1 to 9. So there's really not too much you can do in there. That's that one day where you just got to catch up on stuff, the laundry, the doctor's appointments, all of that, because Saturday's gone. Sunday, none of these places are even open. So, you know, it just became too hectic. And after a long day like that, a 12-hour day or a 14-hour day, you're exhausted. I mean, because it's not like you're just sitting around waiting for customers. You are running. And this was a massive lot. So to get from one end to the other end, looking for a vehicle, you know, with your key fob, you know, it's like, it was a workout, a real workout. And then in the winter, you had to shovel all the snow off of the cars. So you'd be waist deep in snow because you're just shoveling it off the roof and it's landing in between the two vehicles. And then you're just buried in it, you know, and then you're freezing. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. And in the summer, you get into one of these cars and it's like 150 degrees in there, especially if it's black interior, black exterior. You open it up and it hits you like a wall, like a punch in the face. You're like dripping wet immediately, you know? And then you got to pull this car up for a customer, you know, and you're just like a sweaty mess. You know, it's just like not fun. Just, I was like, you know what? I can't do this because it's too much. And my parents are older, right? They're in their early 80s and, you know, things are starting to break down a little bit. So it was like every week I was going to this doctor or that doctor or for this CAT scan or that MRI. And it was just a matter of constantly having to rearrange my schedule, making time up, rearranging my clients. And it just got to be too much, you know, and I was just like, I have to prioritize and, you know, that was it. So I thought, well, one thing I could do is make my commute shorter. So I moved over to a Mazda dealership that's like 2.7 miles from my house. So it made it really quick. And they had a slightly better schedule for like 3 weeks. And then they threw me back on some other schedule that I was like, no, you don't understand. I took this job because of that schedule, not this one you're offering me, right? And so, but they were so morally bankrupt that I couldn't possibly work for them. There was just no way. The way they ran it was just unbelievable. I mean, if you go to Yelp, you'll cry in hysterics, the stories that people tell of their experience in that dealership. And and they're all true. There's just a horrible, horrible place to work. And the GM there was so condescending, so passive aggressive, right? That I just was like, you know what? I'm too old to put up with this kind of treatment. You know, I'm a seasoned sales professional and you don't get to speak to me that way, period. You know, the straw that broke the camel's back, you might say, is I came in one day, I had a punch in, of course. So I had to go through the back garage, punch in. I punched in at 8:58. Made my way through the dealership. There's a restroom right there. And having just had coffee, I used the ladies' room and I came out on the floor. And I'm the only one out on the floor along with the GM. And he says to me, do you know what time we open? And I'm like, yeah, now. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he was trying to tell me that I'm late, right? But I'm like, just go check the time card. I was here 2 minutes ago and I could tell it's 9 o'clock, right? And I'm the only one there. Okay. It's me and him. There's like 6 other salespeople. Where are they? Right. And
do you think people is that
all the time? Huh?
Is that common? Do you feel like in those places, like in that profession, because are people just feeling under pressure all the time? I'm just wondering if you felt like, was that the environment, because you worked in 2 different, for 2 different dealerships, right? So like, was the environment like that a lot, and the people you were around, were they just hard to deal with, or?
Well, a little bit, but not like at that Mazda dealer. That was a blatant, passive, aggressive thing that would happen all the time, you know? And it was a really slow dealership. The only reason I really liked it there is because they sold the Porsches, the Mercedes, right? The BMWs. And there's a lot of money in that, especially the pre-owned ones. Unfortunately, they had such an awful reputation across the entire internet that nobody ever even walked in there. So to kill time, of course, you would talk to the other salespeople, and the GM would walk by and be like, shouldn't you be with customers? And we're like, what customers? There's nobody in here. It's crickets, you know? So it's like we weren't even allowed to speak among ourselves, right? And it was just like, you know what? I don't need to put up with this. You know, I'm too good for this, period. You know? And so I just went in there and I quit. I was just like, you know what? I'm done. And they're like, what do you mean you're done? I'm like, I'm done. You mean you're done with your tasks? I'm like, no, I'm done with this job. I'm done with you. I'm done with all of it. And I just grabbed my purse and I walked out. And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was in October of 2017. No,
Okay.
2017. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right on. So what was your next move?
Well, that's just the thing. I had no safety net. You know what I mean? All I knew is that that I don't want to go and answer to anyone. I don't want to be anywhere at a particular hour for any particular length amount of time. I'm not going to be punching in. I'm not going to be begging to go to lunch when I'm starving. And I'm not going to be spoken to, you know, in a condescending manner. I don't deserve that. And meanwhile, like every time I would come home from work and I would check my emails and stuff, I would always see these offers in my spam box for like, you know, work at home, blah, blah, blah. And I would check them out and they never led anywhere. I mean, they were blatantly not legitimate, right? They just kept redirecting you to like a different page and a different page and register and keep registering. You were like 29 pages deep and you still were like, okay, well, where's the material? Or like, how do I do this, right? So that was always in the back of my mind, was just being able to work from home or wherever I want to. And then so I quit in October and then I started searching again online. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I could piecemeal together some kind of an education, right? So I went to, of course, YouTube and Google and Udemy and Lydia, and like none of it was making any sense to me whatsoever. It was just like I either starting at the end or starting in the middle, but I was like, I could never really grasp my mind around what is this thing called digital marketing. Like no one ever really explained it to me in any kind of cohesive way that I could wrap my head around. And so, of course, you know, once you start searching for something, your feed in YouTube just starts completely changing. You know, now you're targeted for that. And so that's when I saw Kayala's video. And I was like, okay, let's go to the webinar, you know? And that's really how the whole thing started. That was the first time I felt like, oh my God, a legitimate learning platform, right? That, you know, that has someone behind it that has proven success record and obviously knows what he's doing, is sincere in his quest to help others. And so I signed up and, you know, here I am.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. And yeah, so for those of you watching this who, you know, you've come through some funnel probably, which is why you're here. If you haven't yet checked that out, the masterclass led by Cal is incredible because he really does. What I appreciated about that training too is he really does pull the curtain back, and it's not just this blatant pitch in your face buy now thing. It actually reveals exactly what we do on a daily basis to create income through driving online sales. And
that's exactly it.
One thing I really appreciated about it too, I'm interested to hear what you say about this, but I love how the focus is on a skill set. It's really about learning a new skill set.
Yes.
You know, whereas like I said, this isn't, there's no magic pill here. If you're going to get somewhere with this, you have to be willing to, you know, make an investment of your time and energy into learning a skill set. But it's like literally one of the most liberating skill sets you can learn, because it gives you the ability to just take these offers and these products that already exist. You don't need to create your own product. You don't need to make an investment into, you know, like if you're starting a brick and mortar business, there's huge investments there, you know?
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, you just learn an education, then it instantly makes you valuable, and you have all these opportunities to promote existing products and earn an income. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's it exactly. That webinar is what changed everything, because the way that he explained it made sense. Like, oh, this is how it works, you know? Not just the skill set, but the numbers, the budget, you know, all of it, you know? And the fact that it is a skill set that involves mindset. You know, it's not like, oh, you could just use a computer. No, your mind's got to be wrapped around you understanding, you know, that it's
That's
going
a great
to
point.
take an effort. Yeah, that it's going to take an effort, and that you have to believe that you're capable of doing it. Right?
Yeah, and I think it takes a perspective too, especially in the beginning, where you're recognizing the wins, the little wins that come first. You know, I remember like when I first got started in it, it was like, all right, I got my ad account approved. And then I got my first impressions, and I got my first clicks, and then I got my first leads. And so if you have the right perspective and you can see this foundation you're laying, well, then we both know what happens. Then you start making sales. And let's talk about that. 'Cause I know I've been seeing you show up in well, first of all, on the leaderboard, and it's been cool in the AWOL affiliates group, because you're the one that's it's been inspirational. I always get excited when someone else posts a win, because I might be going through a period where I'm, you know, trying to figure things out, but that keeps it going. So you had at least a few sales in the last month or so, right?
Yeah, 9.
Awesome. That's really exciting. And how cool is it that you get the notification and you can be doing any number of things? I mean, I was when my first sale came in with AWOL, it was just over the holidays. I was hanging out with my family, you know?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, I just woke up in the morning, had my coffee, then came over to the laptop. One of the first things I do is check my email, and there it was. So it was like, wow, that happened overnight. I didn't have to do anything, you know? I didn't have to stand out in the cold, you know? I didn't have to go into work. I didn't have to get in my car. I didn't have to, you know, put on my business suit. You know, it was just...
You didn't have to put up with passive aggressive assholes.
Exactly.
No, I can relate to that. And I even think back to my experience in jobs, it was always the same thing though. I'd last for a while. My background is in like IT, and I naturally get burned out. And then I just decide I have to try something else. And in multiple cases I quit, but without a safety net. So I just land back in a job. So
right.
I feel like it's such a blessing that, you know, it wasn't, I don't know if it was Kayla's video that originally got me into this, but I know it was something that landed in my newsfeed on Facebook, and that started my journey, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And when you were talking earlier about wins, in the beginning for me, it was just getting through the modules and comprehending, you know, the new language, right? The terminology, just knowing that was a win, right?
Heck yeah.
And then just, you know, integrating all the different software that you need to operate. That's a win. Once you've got, like, every time you're building it like brick by brick, but it's really, you know, it's all electrons, right? It's not real physical things, but you can see where you're getting to where you want to be. Like, you're creating this funnel, right? And so that whole process, each process, and it is a process, you know, you get little wins along the way, just by going through it, right? And especially when you're able to do something on your own, right?
Yeah, and have autonomy over your time.
Yeah.
And you're creating something. It's exciting. I always get really excited when I start to see the ball rolling like this.
Right, exactly. And two, you know what I like about being an affiliate is that in the past I wasn't always like thrilled about what I was selling necessarily all the time. Like I liked Honda. I wasn't crazy about Mazda. I was more interested about their pre-owned luxury vehicles, right? But obviously I was there, so I had to sell them. But you know, sometimes you don't feel great about the product. I have now the luxury of choosing anything I want, you know, that aligns with my values, you know, my ethics, my principles. And that's awesome because I can go and I can research the product or the service first, and then I decide whether or not I am going to promote this, sell it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you have to have like a, you know, a job that you go to, you just kind of take it,
Yeah, you
right?
don't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You know, it's like, well, this is how we do it. So take it or leave it, you know. And usually I would take it and then shortly, like you, leave it because it just doesn't sit right. You don't feel good waking up in the morning going to do something that you really don't believe in.
100%.
So yeah, so why do it? You know, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Know?
So like if there's someone watching right now that's maybe thinking, all right, you did it, but I don't know if I can do it. This is another thing I appreciate about this is, and at least from my perspective, the education is so complete. It doesn't matter what your background is. If you have zero tech skills, I mean, wouldn't you agree that pretty much anyone can do this if they're willing to just learn a new skill set?
Yes. If you're willing to learn a new skill set. Look, when I was, I mean, gee, I mean, it's not that long ago that I was still hanging out on my flip phone, okay? Because I was like, no, I don't need anything else, right? So that was my technical ability was just using a flip phone and my Mac here. And really, I mean, apart from upgrading that, you know, to, you know, a smartphone, I'm still using the same Mac. I mean, if you can copy and paste, you can do this and follow instructions and just don't be intimidated by the language. Like sometimes you hear integration, you're like, huh? And it's like, no, you're just making
Yeah, that's the word we all know.
right? Exactly. You know, hyperlink, what? You know, it's just no, it's really oh your API keys, what the hell? You know, that was my that was initially my reaction. I'm like, what's this API key? What do I do with it? What is it on?
Maybe that's a great point. Like there's a language and a lingo to this, just like there is in many professions. And if you treat this like a profession, and you think about this really as like earning a master's degree in you know, in internet marketing and really like a freedom-based business, that's almost the right perspective to have because you are acquiring a really powerful skill set.
Right, exactly. And yeah, I mean, every profession has its own set of, you know, terminology, right? I mean, when I worked with cars, there's things that people that don't work in a dealership, words that you would never even hear of or use, right? So obviously, you know, same thing with like a doctor or a dentist or an IT guy, right? You know, that if you're talking amongst yourselves, nobody else would really know unless, you know, unless they've been there before.
Exactly.
So it's just a matter of learning. It's all about learning. And here's the other thing. I love to learn. So, you know, because part of the other problem I had with these other jobs is once I got good at them, I got bored because I was selling the same thing. I was using the same process. And so it gets a little boring. There's really nothing challenging about it. And I like to be challenged. I like to move forward. And with this, you got to stay on top of it because it's technology. So it changes constantly, right? Just when you get one thing like down, you're like, oh, wait, but here's something better. You know what I mean? So, and that's fun to me, you know, because that keeps it interesting.
Me too. I have that same sort of insatiable, you know, desire to learn this stuff. And it's fun, especially when you see it starting to translate into sales, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So if there's someone on the fence right now that's watching this, there's one thing you could tell them. They're thinking about it. They've maybe even, you know, checked out the webinar, but they're not sure. Like what would you say to them?
I would say do what I did, you know, because even after the webinar, I was like, okay, I want to do it, but can I do it? Right? Like, I really still don't know what it's going to require from me. So I went ahead and I did the $99 offer because I figure it's 2 weeks, no questions asked, like they'll refund your money, right? And so I said, all right, I'll do that because I really have nothing to lose. If I can't wrap my head around it, or if it's so far off base from what was in the webinar, then obviously I'll know that, okay, this is a scam or whatever, or it's just not for me. I just can't grasp it. And I'll be fine. I could just move on. I'll get it out of my system, so to speak, right? So I had nothing to lose. And I'm really glad I did that. And I'm glad that offer is there so that you could dabble in it, so to speak, right? And really figure it out, because you get to use the tools, you get to see what's required, you go through the modules, and you get a really good sense of what you're going to be in for, right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and listen to this. Even after I did that, I was like, I still didn't believe that it was legit. So you know what I did? I asked for a refund.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
Oh my God. So what happened? This is really interesting to me.
Just to test them. Because a lot of places, because it's on the internet, so you don't know, right? So I'm like, okay, if this place is really legit, then they'll refund my money.
This is a funny story.
That was my little way of testing it, right?
Yeah, because you were pretty new to the whole digital marketing realm. Yeah, totally new. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, and like 2 days later, I got my refund, and then I panicked. I was like, no, wait, I want back in.
That's so hilarious, Stella. That's awesome.
I was like, oh my God, they're legit. Now I want back in.
That's hilarious. So you got back in,
out, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah. That's just me. I'm skeptical. You know what I mean? I've always been a little bit like, okay, well, let's see, right?
Yeah, and I think this part of your story is actually going to be really resonant with a lot of people, because I think that skepticism is healthy.
Yes.
But at the same time, like at some point, you've got to take a bit of a risk too, Yeah,
you do.
And just bet on yourself. And yeah, we're both testaments to the fact that this education is as powerful of an education as you're going to find everywhere.
Totally. It is. It's like university level.
Yeah. I went to school.
Like the top professors in the industry teaching you. So like and you can do it whenever you want. So what's even better? You don't even have to roll out of bed and go to class. Okay. You just, whenever you've got time.
Yeah. So you heard her, folks. If you've been on the fence and you've given this a look and you're not sure, I mean, the best advice I can give you is to get started. And the other great thing that's part of this is this incredible community. I mean, I always feel so blessed when I get to meet another amazing person. Like Stella and I literally just connected yesterday. So you're not just getting education. I would say it's even a larger value is you get access to this incredible community called AWOL.
Okay, now listen to this. I had never been on social media, period. So even when I got in, I was like, join this Facebook group. Why? No, I'm not going to be chatting all day. Forget about it, And so for 3 months, I suffered by myself with questions because I was like, I have no one to ask. Poor me, And then I finally joined the group and I was like, what? You got to be kidding me. There's like IT guys in there. There are firemen. There's pharmacists. There's single moms. I mean, there's bakers. There's yoga instructors. I was completely blown away at who was actually doing this, right? All because I was like, yeah, whatever. But then the knowledge that's in there to help you with like some simple little question that you can't really, for some reason, figure out, someone will have the answer, because they've already had the same question. So that to me is priceless. Having access to that kind of community, that kind of support, and that kind of knowledge from people who are already really seasoned to just jump on there and be like, oh yeah, just do this or just do that, right?
Yeah, it's so important to realize you're not on an island and you're not alone
Yes.
when you go through this journey, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You know, and then of course the live events, I always recommend those. The live events are just, you know, they will change your life. Absolutely. I know they did mine, you know. It's just when I thought, oh yeah, I got this. I got my head wrapped around it. Then I go to these live events. I'm like, oh no, no, now I have my head wrapped around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you meet the best people. I mean, the people that I met there are like my tightest circle of friends, you know?
That's
So,
really incredible. Like I'm
yeah.
getting back into this. I mean, I've joined this community fairly recently, so I'm really excited to get to the next event. I know is the next one in April, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it is in April. I think that's another Awaken event. And
Okay.
then there's
Well, maybe I'll have the opportunity to meet you in person, Stella.
Yeah,
That would be cool.
that would be a blast.
Well, I think we've covered it. I mean, here's how it goes. If you have already watched the workshop and one reason I'm really wanting to share these stories is because it really allows you to understand how this journey goes for people that are no different than you. And we're in your shoes where you are right now. You know, we've all been in that place where we've looked at something, we maybe haven't been certain about it. It really just is a matter of taking that first step, putting faith in yourself and starting this journey. It'll be an incredible journey for you. And when you make the decision to get started, you get to lock arms with an amazing community. People hang out with people like me and Stella.
Yeah.
And we'll lock arms with you and really help you move this forward. So 2 options. If you haven't watched the workshop, make sure you register for that and watch that 2-hour masterclass. Like we've said, like it's Kayala pulling back the curtain and really showing you nuts and bolts of how this stuff works. If you've already seen it and you've been on the fence, hopefully hearing Stella's story and mine too, we'll put you over the top. You just can sign up for, what is it, $97?
I thought it was 99.
99, sorry.
Yeah, 99.
I should know that.
99, 97.
And that actually gets you access to a coach and also, what is it, 2 weeks of training?
Yeah, you have 2 weeks to go through the modules. There's AWOL 101 and Pro Academy.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd urge you to get started. We'd be happy to have you join us in the community and help you just achieve the freedom and the quality of life that, we know we all deserve, right?
Yep.
So
Definitely.
Take that step and we will see you on the inside. Thank you for joining us today.